No Chill MMA is back for another 16 states. This is going to be the last part in this series. These are the states we're going to be going over today. Let's get right into it. Now, starting off with Ohio, it definitely lives up to the reputation of being, strange. I mean, these are some of the weirdest, maybe the best MMA nicknames I've ever heard. Aaron the Alpha Bush, Fat Hands, Yellow Mamba, the Bipolar Beast, and then we're going to get to the Meat Train in a little bit. I just want to say before we enter Ohio, if you want to learn more about these guys, more about the regional scene, I want you to check out this YouTube channel right here, Forged in Ohio. Pretty much any fighter in the region, you could find a 22-minute interview. Very good catalog of local stuff. Now let's get back to the Meat Train. Mark Gordon Jr., otherwise known as the Meat Train. Is he a technical wizard on the feet? Probably not. Probably not. But he has pretty decent wrestling for a regional heavyweight, and wrestling at heavyweight with those big boys that don't know how to grapple, that could take you a long way. Only 25 years old, he's got a lot of time to do a lot of things. Let's see if he could rack up some wins, and if he does, we will be all aboard the Meat Train. Now, the number one prospect for Ohio is the undefeated 4-0 flyweight Joshua Pereira. Here's the thing with Joshua Pereira, he's not a specialist. He's a very good all-rounder with great fundamentals. And when you can mix it up with the striking and with the wrestling, and you got that down that early in your MMA career, that's a very promising sign for Joshua Pereira. He also trains with Mark Coleman and Matt Brown, so he has a really good team behind him. He's about to fight for a regional title. Let's see if he could win that and move up in the ranks of MMA. Starting off for Oklahoma, Nick Piccinini. I don't know how this guy's number 2. He's 6-0 flyweight, like a million-time D1 All-American. He finished all but one opponent and gets coached by DC. I mean, this dude is just a monster. You get exactly what you asked for with Nick Piccinini's wrestling. But our number 1 has amazing wrestling and absolute monstrous power. Let me introduce you to Oklahoma's number 1 prospect, Jacoby Smith. Just like Nick, Jacoby Smith has an OSU college wrestling background. However, his main attribute is not his wrestling, it's the nuclear bombs in place of where his hands should be. I mean, the dude is a monster. Look what he does to poor Shrek over here. Absolutely kills Shrek.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Gotcha, bitch!
His hands are just uniquely deadly, and with time and power on his side and 6 first-round finishes, how many more heads will Oklahoma's number 1 prospect get to take? Well, I was surprised that Oregon had any MMA scene at all. I mean, their state sport is Pokemon cards. First up, we got Falan Karin. He is a BJJ guy, has finished every single guy that he's been in there with, pro and amateur. So he's a finisher. He's getting toe holds, guillotines, all these different submissions. He's not like an ADCC world level grappler or anything. But let's give him some credit. He started out pretty late in his life with combat sports. 32 years old, just starting to tap people out against pretty good competition in MMA. I mean, the guy's a BJJ prodigy. Let's see where he could go. Now for the number 1. I had a number 1 prospect all picked out, but he's actually recovering from some serious health issues, so by default we're gonna have to go with someone else. The guy that I'm gonna pick is going to be Deshamel Mavliudov, a undefeated 2-0 lightweight from Portland, Oregon. You are right to judge him by that last name. He is a grappler, and he trains with the great, the undefeated, the GOAT, Chael Sonnen. Yeah, but overall, the state of MMA in Oregon is pretty new, so we're probably going to have to wait a couple more years before the region gets more fleshed out. We're going to have to wait for that. Let's get on to our next state right now. To start off for Pennsylvania, we have the undefeated light heavyweight Luke Fernandez. Luke Fernandez is an inside boxer with a lot of power. He likes to throw hooks and uppercuts in close range and constantly finds the finish. He recently had a grappling match against Eric Anders. I understand Eric Anders isn't exactly the highest ceiling of grappler in the world, but that's a UFC level guy, and Luke Fernandez beat him, albeit in a different sport. It's just promising sign after promising sign for light heavyweight Luke Fernandez. Pennsylvania's #1 regional promotion is called CFFC. And if you've been watching CFFC recently, you know that there's a guy who is absolutely tearing it up. When you hear the name Bilal, don't think Muhammad, think Hassan, one of the most prolific young finishers in mixed martial arts right now. Bilal Hassan's striking is very crisp and he has seamless levels of fluidity. He's definitely reminiscent of Edson Barbosa with a little bit more of a Muay Thai influence, and you can see that especially in those body kicks. He also has freakish strength. I see him ragdoll people and make people go down by barely clipping them. Even more impressive when you realize he's doing this all at 125 pounds. It's been highlight after highlight for Pennsylvania's own resident knockout artist.
Fatality.
Now for our first prospect from Rhode Island, we got Tareen De Silva, and we're gonna keep it short just like his fights. Silva's movements and decision making are very fast paced, and he has some pretty good submissions, but we have to see him in there with some higher level competition before we can make estimates on how far he could go. Now the #1 prospect for Rhode Island is Batman, Gary Belletto Jr. What makes him Batman? I don't know. But look how freaking sweet his training setup is. I mean, that is awesome. This guy's always been a good grappler with a striking weakness. He ran into a young Jeremiah Wells and a young Billy Goff and got finished by both of them. But he's doing exactly what he needs to do. Gary Belletto Jr. took up professional boxing where he is undefeated, and if you're wondering about Gary Belletto Sr., he was a 30-3 boxer with 26 KOs. Gary Belletto Jr. has knockout power in his blood. Let's see how he uses it in his MMA career. Start off for South Carolina, we have Brendan Holmes. Is he technical? Nope. But is he a big MRFer that just trucks forward and applies pressure? Absolutely. Now the #1 prospect out of South Carolina is a 6-0 lightweight with all of those wins coming by stoppage, Tommy Little T Kuzi. I knew that Tommy Kawazi was going to be a dominating grappler, and he is. Most of his fights are like I thought. He gets in the top mount, he applies pressure, and he gets a TKO. But man, his striking has improved so much. Started off his last fight waking the guy up with the flying knee and then feeding him a couple more shots for breakfast. Wrestling and striking are the two most essential mixed martial arts, and I know that lightweight is a hard division, but honestly there's a lack of young lightweights making noise right now. Give Tommy Kawazi some time and I wouldn't be surprised if he made it to the UFC. A bald women's flyweight fighter from the Midwest. Speak not of Rose Namajunas, but of South Dakota's #2 prospect, Cheyenne Bowers. Cheyenne Bowers, for a women's flyweight, has some pretty heavy hands. I think her main attribute, though, is her jiu-jitsu. She has pretty good BJJ, and I wish that she'd rely on it a little bit more. She's on a 3-0 streak in LFA right now, and the LFA women's flyweight title is about to be vacated. Honestly, I think fighting for that vacated title makes a lot of sense next for Cheyenne Bowers. The #1 prospect from South Dakota is Bailey Schoenfelder. I already went over Bailey Schoenfelder in a previous video. I'm going to link that right here. But since then, he competed once against his toughest opponent, got a KO in the second round, looked really improved from the last time he was out there. So Bailey Schoenfelder, like I predicted, he's starting to put the mixed martial arts together with his athleticism, and it's bringing him a lot of success. Starting off for Tennessee, we have Andrew Stewart, a rare power puncher, one of my favorite MMA styles. He likes to wait on the outside, analyze his opponent's movements, and then hit them with a big shot before they could get momentum going. If you make a mistake against a guy like this, you're going to sleep. And trust me, Andrew Stewart is pretty good at making people go to sleep. You guys haven't even seen my favorite knockout of his yet. This guy was shooting in for a takedown. Look at the precision of the shot that he caught him with.
Super necessary.
Sent him to the shadow realm like 6 times right there. If he could keep doing this and keep bullying guys against the higher level competition like he is now, he's gonna go so far in MMA. Gotta keep your eye on Andrew Stewart. Now, my number one prospect for Tennessee is Robbie Ring. And you guys may be thinking, isn't that the guy that got smoked on Contender Series? And yeah, he did. But he's 23 years old. He has a ton of heart and some pretty good technical grappling with some quick finishes on his resume. He's amassed a pretty good record already, and I know he's trying to take his parents' gym and kind of put them on the map, but I'd like to see him train elsewhere too, and maybe get some experience training with guys who have been in the UFC already. Alright, first up for Texas, we have Luis Grim Goulet. I mean, okay, as a fighter, he's dangerous in the pocket, but I'll just say it. 8-0 flyweight against great competition. This guy should be in the UFC already. I don't know why they're sleeping on him. He's not boring either. He's dangerous in the pocket. He's got unorthodox striking, elbows, straight up, 8-0 undefeated. Should be in the UFC already.
What is the 5 fingers say to the face? What? Slap!
What happens when you take a Rodrigo Cabral BJJ black belt, give them immense knockout power, and turn the intensity up to 100? You get Texas's number one prospect, Cody Steele. And I pretty much said it all already. He will go forward, march you down, knock your ass out, or if he has to, he has a BJJ black belt on the ground. Now, he's booked up on Contender Series already against the guy who beat Alex Pereira. I'm just going to say it. I think Cody Steele's going to fuck him up. This could age pretty bad, but I think Cody Steele's going to be in the UFC.
Let's wrestle, kid. Let's wrestle. Let's wrestle. Let's wrestle.
Now, Utah is not a good region at all. We have Jose Mendez. You know, he competes in grappling. He's 4-0 on paper. He's great. But the guy he's trying to go 5-0 against is currently on a 21-fight losing streak. Can crushing is just unreal. The only other guy I was interested in from Utah is Justin McDonald. He uses that old school take you down, ground and pound style, just coming off a win over a guy that's 7-5, so we're definitely going to give the spot to Justin McDonald. Come on, man, you know there's absolutely nothing in Vermont. We have Sophia Hayes, a 2-0 women's amateur bantamweight fighter who once competed in Muay Thai. After watching Sophia Hayes a little bit more, she's kind of awesome. She's like 18 or 19 years old. Basically no technicality in the striking, but she just marches forward and just throws and throws and throws. Never runs out of energy. I hope she does make it to the UFC because her fight style is pretty exciting. Prospect from Vermont is an amateur MMA record of 5-2. Edward Brown came from Street Beefs. Now is an amateur MMA fighter. He's got some pretty amazing stand-up for a Street Beefs fighter. And that's it. You know, amateur. Let's just wait till he goes pro. Donnybrook Promotions, thank God for you, or there would be no MMA in Vermont. Let's move on. To open up for Virginia, we have the undefeated 2-0 flyweight Austin Hall. Austin was born November 2002. He's super young. He has decent jiu-jitsu, finished both guys in his fights. I mean, that's all I can say. He's so young. Gotta give him some time to develop. For the number one prospect representing Virginia, we have Kaushik Sakumar. He's looked pretty good in the fights that I've watched. I mean, he's only 3-0. He's a purple belt under Ryan Hall. He's had 40-plus amateur boxing fights. He's about to debut for CFFC, and long-term success there will result in a UFC contract. I'm sorry to say we have another state with not a great MMA scene. I mean, we were blessed earlier in the video, so it's alright. We have Joe Parati, 13-2. He likes to take guys down, either submit them or just keep wailing on them until they go out. Only reason he's not number one is because he's 34 years old and he hasn't fought in over a year. He's got to get back on the activity. I'm sure somewhere like PFL would sign him right up. Now the number one prospect for Washington State is Michael Sear. He is a 6-1 bantamweight with all finishes, and his main attribute has to be his inventive and dominating jiu-jitsu. I watched his last fight, and I know that he got a crazy submission. I wasn't quite sure what it was. He gets on the mic, he explains it's called the Dirt Devil, a modified twister. I thought that was really cool. Being creative enough to just make shit up and go with it, that's confidence, and that's Michael Sear, Washington's #1 prospect.
Oh, those West Virginia hills.
Jeez, I definitely prefer Country Roads to that song. Anyway, the first guy we have for West Virginia is Skylar Mauler. Last name Mauler for an MMA fighter, that's pretty cool. But he's not a stand-up mauler, he's a mauler on the ground. He's got good jiu-jitsu off of his back. He's 2-0 right now, but can he get past the test of the notorious Thomas Gant? Now, unfortunately, that's kind of it for the pro fighters in West Virginia right now. So we're going to have to head back to the amateurs for Devin Stanley. He's a 6-1 undefeated 23-year-old lightweight with a kickboxing TKO win over the aforementioned Skylar Mauler. I mean, not much left for me to say. He's an amateur fighter, probably about to go pro. It's kind of getting a little bit apparent to me that in some places, MMA could still use a lot of development in the United States. But let's not worry about that right now. We got 2 more states left. Let's get right into it. Now to open up for Wisconsin, we have Tyler Veal, a 5-0 undefeated middleweight with a staggering 0% finish rate. He's a wrestler, he could take you down or hold you up against the fence and hit knees to the body, maybe an elbow. That's the type of fighter that he is. He's not like Wallenstall or anything, he just hasn't found the opportunity for a finish yet. Now for the #1 prospect of Wisconsin, we have Mark the Shark Chowinski, an undefeated 5-0 lightweight. The nickname of the Shark is very appropriate as he chases the finish and he's not afraid to get hurt to do so. Although yeah, primarily a grappler, his hands are starting to develop as well. He's got a super nasty squeeze and incredible grip strength on the ground, that's what I noticed. Seems like we're on our last state now, so this series is about to end. Well, without any further ado, let's get into Wyoming.
In the far and mighty west, where the crimson sun seeks rest.
Holy shit, there's literally not anything in Wyoming. Tyler Flanagan, Jorge Torres Jr., both undefeated amateur fighters. That's all I got for Wyoming, but don't click off. During this 3-part series, I've featured and tape studied 100 different fighters. Out of all of them, I want to know which one you think will go the furthest in their MMA career. There's dominating grapplers like Duda, Austin Bashi, Richie Lewis, and then brilliant strikers like Bilal Hassan and Cameron Tegu. And there were people that were really surprising too, like Zarina Turi and Al Morrow. Honestly, the United States was a lot more of a mixed bag than I thought it was going to be. I went into this expecting to find a couple good undefeated pros in every single area. But no, it seems like some places still need some work. I also noticed that fighters who didn't have backgrounds in other combat sports all kind of followed the same route. It seems like at first, fighters do a lot of grappling against the fence, but as their careers go on, their risk mitigation seems to value the win more over not getting damaged. And yeah, if you guys are curious, I'll definitely be making a video in a year's time, and maybe in 2 years' time to check in on where all these prospects ended up. You guys have been great. You guys have been motivating me so much. Thank you for all the support. This has been No Chill MMA, and we just completed our road trip across the United States.